Imagine having the life of your dreams. Not temporary cash and glory, but happiness and inner peace. Explore new ways to be a creator and take your own journey into greatness. Is it possible? What does it take to make that happen? It takes the person known for extreme results. He's called the cage breaker and the ultimate catalyst. Coming back from the brink of death and now crushing it for himself and his clients, this is Your Ultimate Life Podcast with Kellen Flukiger.
Hello and welcome today to episode 511. 511, what a big number, of Your Ultimate Life. This podcast is dedicated to you. The whole point of doing any of this is to help you create your ultimate life, a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. Now, this podcast is just one of many things that I do to help people, you listening today, build your ultimate life. If you're not living a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy, and you want to, then not only is this podcast dedicated to you with every tool and understanding and learning and coaching thought that I can give you to encourage you and get you there, but I've also got a YouTube channel, Ultimate Life Formula. Please subscribe to that. That's full of short videos that are also designed to give you everything I can to create your ultimate life. If you want to have further help and you want me to do something with you, I've got small groups that happen every so often that are 90-day groups to accomplish specific goals. That's really important because without moving from where we are, we're going to keep having the life that we have right now. There's no surprise there. And we tell ourselves all the time, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to, and we don't. If you want some help doing things, big things, but 90 days at a time, then I've got 90-day group coaching programs that are really small groups, 6 or so. And that gives me the opportunity to interact personally with each person a lot. And I love doing that. Those are called the results equation or the ultimate life transformation experience. Lots of names. I help people write books, create courses, change something specific in their business and so forth. But those are all things that I do also. Today, in this episode 511, I titled it, What Are the Facts? And the reason I titled it that is because we're in the middle of building the pillar of truth. Right? And we finished up language and the pillar of truth. We had pillar of choice, pillar of language, and now the pillar of truth, because we're trying to build, or we are building, your palace of power. The palace of power is the place, the mechanism that you have to have the power to do what you want. So much of today's confusion and frustration and negativity comes about because you believe you don't have power. People feel powerless, like they can't control their own destinies and lives. The government this, the economy that, the world this, the disease that, God or something bad happened to me. Today, what are the facts is important as we build the pillar of truth. You can't have anything that lasts very long built on lies, built on deceptions, or even built on misperceptions. Now, lies are active. Deceptions are intentional. Misperceptions are often innocent. And so building the pillar of truth requires that we dig into the nature of truth and that we don't just do philosophical stuff, as much fun as that is, but we also dig into, okay, how do I find out what is really true? And knowing that and then exercising it on purpose is really key to creating the pillar of truth, to creating your palace of power, and ultimately to serving with your divine gifts. I've defined your ultimate life, as you know, is a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy that you create by serving with your divine gifts. So what are the facts? Truth is factual. And that isn't the only thing, because there's multiple stones in the pillar of truth, but truth is factual. And one of the things we have to learn is stick with the facts. Now, a long time ago, millions of years ago maybe, there was a TV program where it was a police detective program. The detective would always say, "Stick with the facts, ma'am." And it always seemed like he was talking to a lady. I don't know, maybe he said it to a guy too. I just remember the scene, "Stick with the facts, ma'am." Truth is partly just facts. Now, there are some things that are absolute fact, or at least as far as we understand. The speed of light in a vacuum, the universal constant of gravitation, those kinds of things are facts, and we know them, and we can measure them, and we see what they are. So when you think about truth, you want to understand, at least as best you can, which things are facts. That means we have to dive internally into our hearts and decide, choose, understand what is factual and what is what we want. That, and then there's nothing wrong with wanting things, but it is important to have a distinction between what is factual, in other words, what is there, demonstrable, measurable, and what you feel or what you want. Now, we're going to go on in another episode and talk about things that you can't know factually. The easiest one, and the one that's often used, is emotional stuff like love. I can't define love in a way that you can see it or measure it in a laboratory. One of the definitions of love I give is a choice. It's a verb. If I love someone, then I use my spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental resources to serve them, to bless them in their highest and best interest. Well, that's a choice, and you might measure the love or see the evidence of it by the actions, but you can't measure a gram of love. Same token, you can't measure a gram of fear. Fear is something that keeps us from doing things that we think we want to do, but we're afraid of failure, we're afraid of the outcome, we're afraid we'll get hurt, mostly emotionally. There are a few things we might do that would hurt us physically, but most of the time it's fear of embarrassment, fear of what other people are going to think, fear of failure, and all that sort of thing. All those things are not factual, but they are powerful in controlling our lives. So this element of truth is to understand and deal with the part that is factual. So when you're trying to create your pillar of truth, we understood already that it was foundational. It's absolutely a foundation. We must know what it is, and we must go to find truth. And this part, we're talking about finding out the facts of any situation. So, for example, I launch a product online. The facts are I have this many opt-ins. The facts are I have this many sales. The facts are I have so many people in one of these 90-day classes I told you about at the beginning. Those might be the facts. The story that I might have around it is, oh, my product's not good, or that my teaching isn't good, or my coaching doesn't work, or I'll never make this happen. And that might control us, but those are all in ways that are contrary to creating power with truth. So the facts might be, I didn't get as many opt-ins as I wanted. That's a fact. I wanted 50 and I got 20. So I put out an ad, or I put out a social media post, or I did some personal invitations to 50 people and only 20 answered me. Wow, that is different than I wanted, but those are the facts. The 50 and the 20, those are numbers. So understanding what parts of truth are simply factual is really important. Then you get to the distinction perception versus fact. Perception often involves a judgment about a fact, a story, or a thought about a fact. The fact is 20 responses, or 2 opt-ins, or 1 sale. The story about that is there's something wrong with me. I'm not okay. I failed. It doesn't work. My stuff sucks. And a whole bunch of other things. Well, if you launched that product the day that Facebook went down for several hours, and then you gather your facts right after they came back, that is one set of facts. If you did it the next day with the same number of hours, you might have a completely different set of facts. If you wrap yourself in the story around the facts that your product's not good and you can't do this, then you may never even try the second day. So sticking with factual things is important. Now, there's an example in my own life that was really stark for me. I was working with a coach, as I always do. I was working with a coach at the time. This was back when I was having trouble still with one of my, drugs of choice, alcohol. And I had a good long period of sobriety, and I had a trigger happen and a relapse. And so I drank. And I was talking to my coach about that, and my story about it was this long rant about why can't I do this, and on and on and on, and real negative. And he asked me really quickly, well, what are the facts? The facts is you went drank, you did this thing, this many hours, nothing bad happened, you're home, you're sober, it's over. So those are the facts. Yes, you had a relapse. Yes, those are the facts. And reframing it in the context of the facts changed my entire relationship with that event. And so that was a really good piece of advice, a really good piece of reframing and coaching that I got from the coach that I was working with at that time. And it didn't change the fact that I had to start my sobriety days over, and it didn't change the fact that I had had a relapse and that trigger bothered me and so forth, but it reframed what I was able to do from that time forward. Because instead of carrying the story that I was awful and would never make this and was a failure and what's wrong with me, I simply understood these things happened. That's not what I wanted. I'm going to start over and do better, and so forth and so forth. So reframing that event was a powerful shift for me. Now, let's take it into some other examples. Let's say you're working on your business and you're trying to get more customers, and you try a new method. You join a networking group, or you do some Facebook posts or some LinkedIn articles, and it doesn't have the goal that you, or doesn't reach the goal you want, and it doesn't seem to happen. Then you can have a story about that and say, I fail, it sucks, etc. Another example of that is there's this AI networking app called Lunch Club. I joined it in February at the invitation of a client of mine in San Diego, and I wasn't going to, and then I did. Now, I didn't join it as a big business generator. I joined it as an opportunity to meet people because, we're in February, we're nearly a year into the pandemic. Now we're a year and a half plus. And I just thought, I wasn't going to, I don't have time for another bunch of stuff. I thought, this is going to be good. So I chose to have no expectations and jump into it. So the facts are, okay, I've been diligent every single week in having at least one, and usually two. Once in a while I'll have three, but usually 2 meetings a week since February. Now, the app keeps track of your score, and so it tells me I've had a 35-week streak. So that means I've met at least 70, and I think it's a few more than that, 75 or something, new people that I have met that I wouldn't otherwise know. The other facts are, some of them have started following me. The other facts are, some of them have asked about my programs. The other facts are, one of them has joined my program. Another one is inquiring about joining it right now. And the next one I hold for writing books. That's one of the 90-day things that I do, is help people write books. The story they have inside of them. And I've written a bunch about my tightrope of depression, and you know that. If you want to read about those stories, Tightrope of Depression, Down from the Gallows, they're on my website, KellenFlukiger.com. Yeah, you have to spell the name right. All right, so that is sticking with the facts, understanding the difference between your perceptions and the facts. And the last part of this that I want to talk about, I'm going to talk about context. Context is the phrase that I adopted since 2018 when I wrote the book of Context, and it came in the wake of my near-death experience when I died in the University of Alberta Medical Center in the ICU. My heart stopped and everything else, and don't have time for that story now, but it's in Meeting God at the Door. If you want any of these books, are on my website or on Amazon. Anyway, the second part of that, those three conversations I had with God came out as the book of Context, about changing our beliefs. Now, when we take facts and we distort them, it is because we have a set of beliefs that give us stories, and then we make some judgment about ourselves. So I can state that, and everybody goes, well, duh. All right, well, the key is, now that we understand that, what are we going to do differently? Well, we need to change our context. We need to simply take the facts as they are, the truth represented by those facts, and we need to then look at the context or framing we've created, the judgment and the stories, and then ask ourselves a really important question. What else is possible? How else can I see this set of facts, this event, this circumstance? One thing that I've learned to do is ask myself, what's the blessing here? What's the gift here? And that's a choice. People joke about it, say, well, I don't want to do that. It's just some stupid thing. No, it isn't. Actually, it's simply a choice to ask a different question. So no matter what your facts are right now, What if you took every situation, especially the difficult ones, especially the ones where you have the story of failure, and ask yourself that simple question: what is the gift here? I don't know what you're going to find, but when I do that truthfully and I dig into this, I always, and it isn't even hard, I find multiple gifts with every difficult situation. So that included dying in the hospital. That included returning 5 months later for emergency surgery in the middle of the night on my spine. It included every difficult setback that I had, emergency gallbladder surgery, and those are all health-related. Whether it's health-related, relationship-related, I've got stuff with kids going on, and those of you that have listened know that I'm still working on those things. The truth is, if you live in the question, what is the gift here? You can take any set of facts and turn it into a truth that will add to your power as you create your palace of power by finishing up the pillar of truth. All of this is in service of creating your ultimate life.
Open your heart and this time around.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. We hope that you take it deeply into your heart and decide for yourself how you can create anything you desire. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to this podcast and share it with your friends. As always, we'd love to hear your feedback and topic suggestions. Until tomorrow, this is Your Ultimate Life with host Kellen Flukiger.
Stand with your heart in the sky and your